love never seen such a perverted teacher raising her skirt under the lectern table to seduce Jack as the teacher pressed him harder and harder. Jack kicked the podium over, leaving his anger and embarrassment to the shameless one teacher, but Jack was also to blame for all this a few months ago. Jack was cleaning up his classroom, but his eyes are drawn to the teacher's pale skin. When a boy is an adolescent, they always shape fantasies about the unknown, but Jack's fantasy was a teacher who was 40 years younger. Jack is captivated by the charm of a mature woman. Even the girls who offered themselves to him, he was not even interested. He hurt the self-esteem of many girls. He was always the last to leave the classroom at the end of the school day, and he was the first to arrive at school during the day. He did this to get the teacher's attention, to get some time alone. Sometimes he used the opportunity to return books to tout. The teachers were aware of it, but they didn't say anything. Jack didn't know how to defend himself, and the teacher didn't need him to explain. He even took pleasure in his own charm. They seemed to be responding to each other with acquiescence. In the classroom, Jack kept moving his body around. Wherever the teacher went, he moved. Wherever the teacher went, trying to express his affection in this way, but the teacher ignored it because this was a place of learning. Outside the classroom, Jack would always go downstairs to the teacher's house to sneak a peek into her room, and she would deliberately change into her pet, pretending to be on the balcony, not only to show Jack a glamorous side and vanity to show off her still charming. That day in class, the teacher asked Jack to go with her to get the materials. Jack accidentally broke a handrail on while she rushed forward to help. Close proximity and the atmosphere of the small corridor, Jack couldn't resist. This boy kissed a teacher in the corridor. After that, they established an unbreakable relationship. From time to time, they would make eyes at each other in class. It was the teacher's birthday this weekend. Jack came home with flowers. She wanted to take this opportunity to further their relationship, but then unfortunately her husband, who was away on a business trip, also came home with flowers. He wanted to surprise his teacher and ran into Jack in the house. He's just a student. It's not unusual for him to be at home to catch up on his homework, so he didn't ask any questions after his birthday. The husband continued to drive away on business, and the two of them were waiting for it inside house all night long. They had been together. Jack was exhausted. The teacher left a note of satisfaction. She told him to sleep easy and not worry about missing class. He put on his teacher's pajamas. He got up and washed up with pleasure, but just as he turned around, he was surprised by the teacher's husband sitting in the living room. Strangely enough, not only was the husband not angry, instead he was crying bitterly. It turned out that he had drunkenly cheated on his wife. He had ruined the marriage with his own hands, so no matter what his wife did, he would not blame her as a punishment for himself. Faced with a sobbing teacher husband and endless confessions, Jack, who was also a man, was deeply touched. He was ashamed of what he had done. On the other hand, the teacher, in his quest for excitement, ever unbuttoned her thighs in class to seduce Jack. She writes on a piece of paper, thought she will meet him at 7 p.m. but Jack didn't single quote he want to make any more mistakes. He turned around and left the classroom. So at 7 o'clock in the evening, the teacher is alone drinking and crying. She wanted to give Jack one last chance, so she smashes the bottle on the spot, forcing Jack to take off her coat with sharp glass. This female teacher smashed a bottle of wine. She used the glass to force her students to take off their clothes for her. At this point, the teacher was like a cold-blooded hunter, and Jack finally realized he was just happy to be played with. In addition to this, the teacher threatened to expel him from school, forcing him to obey orders, formally making him his slave. She even lifted her skirt under the lecture to bleat the drop of a hat, seducing Jack in front of the students. In the face of such humiliation, Jack finally couldn't take it anymore. He dared to fight back. When he leaves the embarrassment to the teacher, he proved that he had grown up too, but in doing so he was also expelled from the school. But he still had Atkins. He's going back to class. From the teacher's notebook, you'll find the little note that once asked him to meet him at night, he'll be able to reveal the teacher's true nature. But unfortunately, the so-called evidence had already been torn up by the teacher. There was no one left to sanction her actions until the graduation ceremony. The teacher presented each student with a certificate. Jack, who wasn't supposed to be there, but he marched into the church. His gaze was firm, and he was aggressive as he walked right up to the teacher. He also unbuttoned his trousers in public. He wanted to get back at his teacher. In this way, in the sanctuary of the Church of Liam Jai, he was able to strike back. The humiliation was double. Had finally fastened the button. He left the church satisfied. All his classmates received their diplomas, and he received proof of his growth to become in control of himself.